Hello everyone, Drifter here. Welcome to my final thoughts video about Gears Tactics. I've just finished the game. The full Let's Play should be up on the main channel by now. I'm recording this right after I beat the final boss and finished the game. And I'm still kind of riding a high from that boss because that was fun. That was a good boss battle. And it turns out there is actually a post game here, which I actually wasn't aware of. And the objective, so we've got veteran side missions, and we do 3 of those, just like we did in Act 3. And then the game, and I didn't record the footage, but the game said something about then you unlock a veteran mission as opposed to a veteran side mission. So it is the post game, and I don't know how long it goes for. It looks like we've got this objective of collecting 20 pieces of supreme loot. So maybe when you do that, it might finish, or maybe the difficulty gets ramped up or something. I'm not sure. Now, the supreme mods, we did get one for beating Ukon, and Diaz got it. I think it was this thing, right? So plus 100% crit damage, and he gets the cleave ability. And the cleave ability is insane. This unit's successful chainsaw attack counts as an execution. So that means using a chainsaw attack, you're going to give everyone else 1 action point. And it reduces this unit's skill cooldowns by 1. So given I invested in the chainsaw abilities, and Diaz's chainsaw cooldown is like really short, I think it was like every 2 turns or something he could use it. That is just insane. That is just crazy. Yeah, supreme weapon mods, really, really powerful items. And I did read about, I think the game told me about them when I first installed it, gave me a little pop-up. And I never saw any supreme weapon mods during the campaign. And I was like, what is it? And yeah, apparently they're a post-game thing. So it gives you a reason to keep playing. So that is pretty cool. Yeah, and even though Ukon's defeated, his forces are still out there, and so we're just gonna keep fighting them. And that is a cool feature. I'm probably not gonna do that. I feel like I've had my time with this game, and I did enjoy it. I think it's really, really good. But I think I'm ready to move on to something else. So the basic premise for this video is I'm just going to rant. I'm talking completely off the cuff. I'm probably going to be umming and ahhing a lot, so if you're bothered by that sort of thing, you have been warned ahead of time. And I really just want to think about a few things. One, my overall impressions on the game, and my overall impression is it's a good game, and if you enjoy turn-based combat, or turn-based tactics, perhaps I should say, yeah, I think this is a good entry into that genre. So that's an easy one to answer. I really like the game. Then the other things I want to talk about is just what I liked about it, what I maybe didn't like about it so much, and then finally, and maybe the most important thing for me, would this game make for any good challenge runs on the main channel? So that's what I'm going to have a think about. So yeah, I'm just going to rant for a bit. I'll play some gameplay footage over the top, maybe some of those side missions that you guys didn't see, so you can enjoy that. And yeah, I'm just gonna talk. And please let me know your thoughts down in the comments, especially on the challenge run side of thing. If you do have any good ideas for challenge runs for this game, I would love to hear them. So what I liked about this game, honestly, probably my favorite thing about the game, I love the boss fights. All 3 of the boss battles, they were just really cool, like, set pieces, like it felt like you were playing like a FromSoft game, but with turn-based combat, just those big menacing bosses fighting in an arena, and just really, really cool. Really enjoyed that. Would have been up for having a couple more of those, actually, because they were probably the highlight of the game for me. Really, really like the boss fights. The other thing that I think is really awesome about this game is just the production value, I guess. So the voice acting, the music, the graphics, the animations, just all the entire presentation of this game, like it feels like you are playing a AAA game. It fits right in with the original Gears trilogy that I played, I think back in the 360. Like this game feels like it's on par with those for their time. All things being relative. It feels like a big budget game. And we don't often get that when it comes to turn-based combat games. And I think that's part of the reason why I, and probably, a lot of other people as well, why we enjoy XCOM 2 so much. Because that was another game where, it's a turn-based tactics game, but it's got good production. It feels like you are playing a AAA game. Whereas a lot of turn-based games, even though they're fun games, because it's a bit of a niche genre, they're made on a smaller budget. And so you don't get those, the fancy graphics and the really high quality voice acting and all of those things. So I really, really like that. And I think it's a treat whenever we get a game that in this genre that has that production value. I just think that's awesome. Don't know when we're going to get another one. Hopefully it's not too long, but yeah, really appreciated that about this game. In terms of the story, I liked the story. It's been a very long time since I played the original trilogy, so I can't comment on whether the story of this game fits into the universe or how well it fits into the Gears universe, because I don't remember the details from those games. I remember the overall plot, but I don't remember the ins and outs of what we were doing. But yeah, I thought the plot was good. I thought it built intrigue, with dealing with Prescott at the start of the game, and the fact that like things didn't really make sense, and then as we kind of dug deeper, we weren't just fighting Locust, we were kind of uncovering the conspiracy as we went, and I liked that. I thought that was cool. So yeah, thumbs up for the story from me. I do think they could have done a bit more with it though, and maybe that leads me into the things that I don't like about the game so much. And just in terms of, like Prescott thought that he blew us up, and then we kind of never dealt with Prescott again. And one of the things I liked about the game was when you went from Act 1 into Act 2, the game really felt different, like in Act 1, we were in city missions and city maps, and then for the second act, we went to the desert, and it really felt like the game changed very dramatically there. And then when we got to Act 3, that change wasn't there, and I think kind of the only real difference that I noticed between Act 2 and 3 is that in Act 3, the side missions definitely got a lot more difficult. Like the side missions I thought were the hardest part of the game. Some of those side missions are just crazy. Like when you're sending one guy, oh man, that's bonkers. What I think might have been a cool idea, and some people might disagree with me on this, but if they were going to keep Act 3 in the desert, maybe a good way to make Act 3 feel different. And what I thought was going to happen after we, or Prescott betrayed us, I guess, that we would be fighting Prescott's forces, and we might have some missions where we were actually fighting other Gears, and we might be going up against a small group of human enemies that are really, really powerful like we are. And I think that would have made Act 3 feel very distinct from Act 2. So I think that they could have explored that a bit more, like that plot thread kind of just disappear. Oh, well, Prescott thinks we're dead, and so now we just kind of forget about him and finish our mission. And not to say that that's a bad thing, but I don't know, it just felt kind of like a loose end that was never tied up, and that maybe they could have done something with that. Speaking of the side missions, I do think there's too many of them, especially in Act 3 when you got to do 3 in a row. They do become a slog, and they are quite repetitive. And it does feel like maybe the developers were either running out of time or money, because there seemed to be a lot less repetition in like Act 1. And then by the time you got to the end game, the missions often felt similar. Even the story missions, it was like, well, we're just doing a side mission, effectively. So I honestly probably would have just gotten rid of some of the side missions, maybe just keep it to one instead of increasing it to two in Act 2 and then three in Act 3. Just keep it to one. Make the game shorter. Make your soldiers level up faster. I would have been happy with that. Again, that might be controversial. Other people might disagree. They might like the game being longer. But for me, I think with a lot of games today, there's a lot of padding. And we've gotten to this point where, we think like every game has to be really, really long. Like I think my playtime for this game is about 35 hours, maybe a bit under that. I would have been happy with 20. I would have been happy with 15. Jump in, play a really good campaign and say, yep, that was fun. But yeah, I think in all types of games there, we've got the side quests and the fetch quests and the filler. And I don't think games need that. Again, I might be in the minority on that one. Other people might, if the game's longer, yes, you are getting more value for your money. But I would rather the game be shorter and tighter and have more replayability, and have a game where you can play it through 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and it be different every time. And I think I would prefer that over a campaign that just has, padding. So I think the side missions, they were a little bit much, and I probably would have done without them. But again, this is all just my opinion, and you may agree or disagree. That also leads me into, I do think the soldiers level up too slowly. Now that I know there's an end game, I kind of understand why they level up so slowly, because you're probably meant to keep playing afterwards, so you don't want to reach the maximum level before you beat Ukon, because there's a whole nother mode to check out. So I guess that criticism is maybe not so valid now that I know there's an end game, but that is something, like, I did feel like as I was playing the game, we were leveling up quite slowly. And then probably my biggest criticism is actually the hero units. And not the hero units themselves, right? They're fine, but just the fact that you have to use them. So like every time that you want to do that final mission against Ukon, you got to use these 4 people. They're going to be there every single time, and you might have built up your own group of custom troops along the way. And it's like, well, sorry. Just like Aliens Dark Descent, actually, the people who you might be most attached to, well, they might have to sit out the final mission, the climax of the game, because, we got to push a story, and we got to use the story characters. So I didn't like that you're forced to use them. I really don't like that if they die, it's a game over like that. The only time I had a game over this whole game was when Sid got one shot on that first boss. That fighting the Brumac, and he just got stomped into a sinkhole, and instant game over. Whereas, like if this was XCOM 2, some poor guy got one shot, well, the game just continues, right? But because we need Sid for the story, the game can't continue without Sid. And so it doesn't allow you to progress after that failure state. And I think that's a missed opportunity. I really like that in games, being able to, instead of just, oh, well, you failed, so you have to do it again. I like that idea of, well, you failed, but let's see if you can still win. You lost the battle, or you took significant hits in the battle. Can you still win the war? That is something that I really enjoy. RPGs are good that way as well. You make a horrible decision and go, oh my gosh, that was a terrible idea. I can't believe I did that. But we just got to continue on, being able to continue after failure, which in some of these missions you just can't do. You've got to win the mission Otherwise, it's game over. And you've got to keep all your soldiers alive. Otherwise, it's game over. And so that then leads me into my final point about, is this game good for challenge runs? And honestly, I think the answer is no. I think the answer is a resounding no. And it is because of those heroes that you have to deploy, you know, those story characters. Like, you know, I'd love to try a solo class run in this game. I reckon that would be so much fun. Let's see if we can do the game with only heavies. But we can't do that. We can't do that, because on the final mission, you got to deploy a support, a vanguard, a sniper, and a scout. And you don't have a choice in the matter. I think someone did suggest using only pistols. I mean, that final boss with only pistols, that would be tough. I don't know if that would be possible. And then even like a no guns run. Well, okay, you can use your chainsaw, but until you get the upgrades, your chainsaw has like a 6-turn cooldown. So you're killing one enemy every 6 turns. That's not going to work. Same thing with the frag grenades. You can use a frag grenade, but the cooldown is going to be too long in the early game. In the late game, it might be possible. But even then, like you have to bring Michaela. What's Michaela going to do without a gun? Not much. So yeah, I think it's a shame. I think the having to use the hero characters is definitely restricts the type of challenge runs that you could do with this game. So I'm going to say this one's probably not good for a challenge run, and I'll be very clear, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. Not at all. It just means for this one niche thing, it's not very well suited to doing that. So I don't mean that as a criticism or that the game is bad or anything like that. As I said, I really like the game. I think it's really, really good. But I just don't think it lends itself very well to a challenge run. I may be lacking creativity, though. If you guys have good ideas for challenge runs, post it in the comments. I'll definitely give it a read. I'll definitely give it some consideration. But for me, I think, yeah, and unless someone has a really awesome idea that I can't think of, I think this is probably it for me with Gears. Really, really enjoyed my time with it. But yeah, we'll be moving on to the next thing. I did also look at if there were any mods for this game, that would allow us to either not have to use the hero classes or be able to change their class, so if we wanted to do an all heavies run, we could turn all these guys into heavies. As far as I can tell, there's no mod like that exists. And from what I can see, modding the game is actually quite difficult because a lot of the files are just not easy, or maybe not even possible to kind of access in that way and change. So yeah, I really enjoyed Gears Tactics. I thought it was a very good game. Really had a lot of fun with it. But it is time to say goodbye. All things come to an end eventually, don't they? So that's my final thoughts on Gears Tactics. I'm not going to call this a review because it's just me rambling like a crazy man. But that's what I thought about it. That's my overall opinion. Really good game. Are some things I think could have been done better. But overall, yeah, really, really fun turn-based tactics game. Glad I played it. Think it was a really good way to start the Let's Play channel. And now I gotta go think about what I'm gonna play next. So I guess I'm gonna do that. You guys, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. There will be another game up on the channel in the pretty near future. So look out for that one. And until then, as always, have a great day.